Life wasn't really nice to you. Somehow you had found yourself in a rundown apartment, with cheap furniture even your grandma would call tacky. A closet filled with unmatching second-hand clothes, and horrible neighbors who, even though they could not spell the word hypocritical, would perfectly fit into a dictionary description of that word. Of course, you yourself weren't perfect either. Your ex-husband was a violent sociopath. You were warned by pretty much everyone to not go with him, but there was this nagging unconscious feeling that was deeply hidden inside you. A sadness and a wish. The wish of utter self-destruction. In truth, you just wanted the right excuse to end it all. Because of this, you were diagnosed with depression, social phobia, and other things that had long names attached to them. In these days, the only contact you really had were the local cat population. Your quirk, ironically called Cat Lady, allowed you to manipulate the behavior of felines through the use of music. This included singing, humming, and of course music instruments. The louder, the more cats would be attracted. While this quirk would have some use in the world of heroes, your parents could not afford the higher education necessary to further your ability to do anything useful. However, your dad had owned an antique shop that had an old piano in it, which he had given you lessons on until he eventually managed to sell it when you turned 12. It was also in this apartment you had taken a handful of pills your therapist had prescribed. And also this apartment you had returned to a few months later, after a long and tedious hospital stay. After returning home, you decided the first thing you needed to do, after eating dinner of course, was to play the piano. It had come with the apartment, and was the actual reason you were interested in the property to begin with. Your fingers danced across the keys, still remembering the right strokes to attract the local cats. And soon there were multiple meows coming from your balcony. With a soft smile, you went into your kitchen to grab some of the dry food from inside one of the cupboards. Slowly you proceeded through your balcony door. Outside, the night stretched across the skyline. Rain slowly drizzled from a thick layer of clouds. The only thing distracting from the sound of the endless pitter-patter of rain were the distant police sirens and the meowing of your cats. You had just finished up filling your first out of 3 food bowls when your doorbell rang. With a heavy sigh, you turned on your heels and slowly trotted towards your apartment door. After opening it, your mood immediately went sour. In front of you stood Akira, the sleazy guy from the apartment in front of yours. He was wearing his signature cheap leather jacket. Open, no shirt under it. At least this time he was wearing underpants. From the open door behind him, you could just barely make out the silhouette of a very skinny woman who was rubbing her naked body all over his furniture. Akira was a somewhat known drug dealer. Too small for the police to bother with, but big enough to have a bunch of coked-up girlfriends who would pay him large sums for whatever he was selling that day. For favors. His unnaturally handsome face was distorted into an angered form. "Are you out of your fucking mind?" he bellowed. With each passing word, his voice got louder. "We'll had it with your bloody cats!" By now he was getting so loud even the coked-up bimbo in the flat stopped moving for just a split second. Usually when seeing the guy's face, your body filled itself with anxiety. But something was different. Maybe it was your near-death experience. But anger bubbled up inside you. In a calm voice, you simply retorted, "If you don't change your tone right now, you will be going back to your whore with a broken nose." "Don't you dare tell me about my fucking tone! After all, it's okay for you to play that fucking piano of yours in the middle of the fucking night!" Once again, you couldn't peel your eyes away from the girl in his flat. She seemed to have found a bag of regular baking flour and was right now snorting it through her nose, cackling like a little girl who stole her mother's cooking jar. "Do you think anybody cares about your stupid cuts? They're a nuisance!" Your mental barrier was faltering. You could feel it. If you didn't disarm the situation, you would be faced with a mental breakdown, something you definitely could not afford right now. You quietly inhaled, and then shouted, "Go fuck yourself!" before slamming the door in front of his face. Your heart felt like it would jump out of your chest, and you sank down on the ground, tears running down your face. Your back was pressed against the hardwood door. "Yes, I call it pest control!" You heard his muffled shout. Before a few seconds later, Log Bonk indicated that he went back to his unfinished business. With a heavy sigh, you stayed on the floor until your heartbeat returned to normal. But your turbulent night wasn't over just yet. Just when you had gotten your bearings and entered your living room, a shadow on your balcony caught your attention. You turned with a perplexed look on your face. It was a striking young man, maybe 2 or 3 years younger than you, with spiky blonde hair, and a scar running across his whole face. You tilted your head in confusion. A robber would have already entered. So would a killer. And it didn't seem like he was carrying any weapons with him. And the way he patiently looked towards you, it filled you more with curiosity rather than fear. With only a slight hint of it, you slid open the glass door. "So you're finally out, huh?" His voice was deep and rough. "Excuse me, who are you?" was the only thing you could think of as a reply. He chuckled. I'm really known by 3 names. Can't really decide which one I like the most. And in fact, I have 3 distinct fan groups specifically for these names that are in a really hefty social media war with each other." You rolled your eyes. "So, how am I supposed to call you?" He smirked. "Not really allowed to tell civilians. That's at least what my agency says. For as long as I'm on patrol. So I guess just call me Ka-chan." You crossed your arms skeptically. "And what do you want, Ka-chan?" "Check on you when you come home from your little, incident." You raised an eyebrow. I'm talking about the pills. And that little, self-deletion attempt." "Were you the one who called the ambulance?" Anger and disappointment was bubbling up inside you again, but honestly, you didn't know why. Were you holding a grudge for him for surviving? "I was." "You should have kept your door closed. I would have gotten suspicious." You scratched over your right cheek. "What do you mean?" He grinned. "Your apartment's on my patrol route, and your glass door was closed. You only close it when you're outside, which you definitely weren't, judging by the lights being still on." Now you were the one chuckling. Albeit sarcastically. So what? Am I being stalked by the handsome young lad that you are? He shook his head.
No, I'm supposed to protect people. I want to become the number one day, after all. And that means I notice these kinds of things.
Do you have a smoke? You asked. Some thunder on his belt, he summoned a pack. With an appreciative thanks, you took one out. While he was searching for a lighter, you put the butt into your mouth.
There you go,
he said before lighting it. You took a deep drag and then leaned over your balcony fencing. Have you been checking up on my apartment daily? You know, since I got into the, You asked after a few minutes.
Not daily,
he began.
Once per week. So probably not more than 5 times.
You smirked. Time didn't fly by in the hospital. You had stopped counting days after 20 and just accepted. So you're my knight in. You looked him up and down, noticing the camel pattern on his uniform. Noticing the camel pattern of his costume. In camo armor, hair? In camo armor? Kachan didn't immediately reply, but he gave you a soft smile.
Yeah, I guess.
He wasn't a popular hero. That much was clear. Probably just left high school and hasn't made a name for himself yet. He had a few stubbles on his face and some rings under his eyes. The guy was definitely working a lot. Plus, that striking scar. You had to admit, all this made him look kinda hot. You wouldn't mind some bedroom fun with him. So maybe his dream of becoming number one wasn't so far-fetched.
I don't want to be a nuisance, but I'm curious. What made you decide to do it?
You gave him an annoyed look. You had dealt with a lot of people who asked you that question these past days.
I don't mean overall. I understand why people do it. It's a sad fact of reality. But they always have a key moment. Something that broke you on that day. What happened?
You looked away melancholically.
I never was depressed. At least not on that level. Just curious.
You shrugged. I don't remember. I mean it. It's not just some stupid excuse. I took sleeping pills, for God's sake. An entire day, it's just a blur. Defensively, you turned away and took a drag from the cig. But when you feel like I do, the smallest type of garbage can feel like the apocalypse. You and Kak-chan continued talking. And once the pack of smokes was half empty, he climbed onto the balcony edge, ready to leap over the building next to yours. Wait, before you jump, will I ever see you again? You asked with hesitation, and he tilted his head to look at you, with slight interest.
Counter question.
You gulped.
Do you still hate yourself? Are you gonna do it again?
Without really wanting to, you nodded. And he sighed.
How does tomorrow sound? I'll be off patrol at 9 p.m. I'll tell you my name then.
He gave you a coquette smirk.
I have an idea. Why not have some snacks ready? I also wouldn't mind some chicken tenders. Just in advance. I will compare them to the ones my mom used to make when I was in elementary school.
He winked at you.
It's gonna be difficult beating that.
And with that, he jumped. You looked after him as he climbed up the other building's wall onto the roof. And you smiled. Ah, guess I got a date now, you said to yourself.